Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the Cold Fusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome back to another episode of the Modernize or Die podcast. And I've got the wrong thing up. Whoops. Aha, and the wrong date too. Man, this is a good one today. Shh, nobody see this.
I know what date it is. It's that one day after the other day that we did that thing. Don't you remember?
I do remember sometimes, but not today.
You know, I use the phrase the other day to refer to anything like yesterday to maybe like 3 years back. It's all the other day.
Yeah, because apparently we need more waffle in our podcast, so we're going to waffle it up today. This can be a 12-hour episode.
Yeah, I did get a jug of Vermont maple syrup for Christmas, so you bring the waffles, I'll bring the syrup, Gavin.
Sounds good. So I am Gavin Pickin, a software consultant for Order Solutions, and you are?
I'm Brad Wood. Apparently the show notes say I'm the lead architect for Order, so we'll go with that.
Sounds good.
We roll a dice every day, and just it's like the job description dice. You know, some days Gavin's the janitor, some day I'm the accountant. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, as long as Brad's not the designer, we'll be safe.
Hey man, my mad Microsoft Paintbrush skills. You'll be sorry.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us again on the CFML News Edition of the Modernize or Die podcast. So we'll try and give you some news and let you know what's going on out there, and hopefully keep you guys up to date so you guys can stay modern. Because we don't want to die or anything. So
nice. John says the day is 6 months till Flag Day. Oh, well, no, 5 months. Do I hear 4?
Too funny. Okay, well, let's jump into this news. So, Ricky, I keep saying Ricky Vita instead of Vicky.
I'm going to say Ricky Gervais. I'm like, I know that was a great speech, but I didn't think that's what we were covering today.
No, Vicky. Sorry, I see both their names and I always mix them up. So I'm having a bit of a day today.
Maybe I should do the podcast today, Gavin. Yeah. You provide the color. I'll keep us on track, which is going to be weird.
Yeah, so Vicky Ryder's had a small vacation, so the CF Summit videos have taken a slight slowdown. So right now there are about 16 videos up there, but apparently she's back from her vacation and she's got lots more to post. So
she thinks she gets vacation, huh?
Yeah, apparently.
We'll allow it.
Yeah, so on the playlist there's 16 videos so far and plenty more coming. So if you missed out on CF Summit in Las Vegas, definitely check them out. There are some great videos, and if you did go, you can see all the ones you missed because there were more than one track. So some good content out there. Next, we have on the list is the Rack Chief is doing a webinar, and that's on Thursday, January the 16th. So I got the day right this time. So 2 days away. So if you want to register for that, you can do so. Brad will post the link in the notes. And
I will.
We have. Oh, you will? Okay, well, I will.
Jeez, I better get off Facebook.
But it's a really long URL, so in case you want to type it out, you can do cfwebinar-cf2020.meetus.adobeevents.com. So a long one. It'll be in the show notes though. But register for that and find out what Rick Chief is going to share with us about Cold Fusion 2020. So maybe they'll have some more information about what it includes and when it's coming out. But also, what they're looking to do as they move forward too. So I'm kind of curious about that. The pre-release program sign-up was a while back. Still haven't heard anything about it yet. Have you got any emails yet, Brad?
I haven't. I should ask.
Yeah, we should probably find out. But the pre-release should be available soon for...
if anyone here is in the 2020 preview, blink 3 times in the chat.
Yeah, so hopefully tell us a little more about that, and then of course they'll open up the public beta after that. So, and then they'll be doing the full release sometime this year, hopefully.
That's beta for you non-Kiwis.
Yeah, but that looks like
everyone in UK is like, we know what he said. He said beta. Well, what's the confusion?
Yeah, it's okay. My wife still doesn't understand me. We've been married 10 years. Okay,
we can't help you with that on this podcast. That's out of our purview.
Yeah, for sure. So another news thing, tomorrow me and Michael Bourne are going to do a live coding series. We're going to do some webcasting on YouTube. So we should be there 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll be sharing that, so look out on Twitter. I am gpickin on Twitter, and Michael is michaelborn_me on Twitter. So we'll tweet when we're going live, so check it out. And we're going to be working on a pair programming project to build a ForgeBox package for our CFML challenge that we're doing here.
So are you guys going to be watching the chat? If people jump on, can they like haggle you and harass you real time?
They can. Yep, that's the plan.
See, the value just shot up. I like that.
You get hecklers and everything. So kind of like this. But so we're going to be doing that tomorrow. We're going to try and do it Wednesdays, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7
So there's no URL here in the show notes. What's the stream URL going to be?
That's why you have to watch Twitter so you can see when we go live.
Oh, so you have no clue and you're making it up as you go. Got it.
Well, I'm not sure if we're going to put it on Michael's, because Michael's done a few live streams before on Twitch, and he's moving over to YouTube, so we'll probably put it on his channel.
All right, so you just have to look at the Tweety pages at 7 p.m. Eastern, thereabouts, and look for the link.
Yep. And then once we figure that out, we'll...
now, you guys going to be sitting at some ridiculous little desk with, like, 4 green screens behind you, and it looks like you're in some, like, office, but you're really thousands of miles away? Or
no, we're probably going to share the screen, and we might have a little faces pop up in the corner, but probably just more code. Like, let's get into the weeds and actually do some programming. So we'll use a code box template. We'll use some command box scaffolding to scaffold up a challenge. CFC. We'll write some tests that you have to get the package to pass, basically, to pass that coding challenge. And then
will you write the test first?
Well, yes, because your challenge is to make it work. So we'll write the test first.
You have to write the test first.
So, but yeah, we'll try and do it TDD style with some nice BDD
now,
style.
I'm a big fan of bug-driven development. You find a bug and you fix it. It's really cutting edge.
Yep, that's usually how I work. Okay, so that's pretty much on news. It's been a quiet week this week, but
it has been.
There's been.
You guys need to get out and ruffle some feathers. Give us some news for next week.
Yeah, there's been a lot of content, though. We'll get to that soon. But, excuse me. Conferences, though. Big deadline tomorrow is the Into the Box call for speakers is closing. So we need your sessions, right? We don't want Brad speaking all day, because he will.
I'll do it if I need to, but I don't want to. This is for your sake.
Yep. So the call for papers, it closes tomorrow at midnight. So papercall.io/ITB 2020. Get in there, submit it. We need those because we want to build a schedule. We want to release that schedule to you so you guys can, see who's going to be speaking and buy your tickets. You can buy your tickets right now, though, and if you do, you'll get a super early bird special price with $200 off the original price. So if you buy them now without knowing what the workshops will be or who's speaking, you get an extra early bird special, and you get to save $200. So you can register now if you go to intothebox.org. You can do that and have some faith that this will be one of the best ones we've done, because I think this is the 5th one in Houston and 7th overall.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out how many years it had been the other day, and it gets confusing since we had started it. It's just kind of like a pre-conference conference, and then it kind of grew, and then it finally broke off into Houston, and I lose track.
Yep. So
I don't even know how old my kids are sometimes. So asking me this is like, whoa, man.
Yep. And so in the show notes, we're also sharing a few other conferences. So we have details on DevNexus, ViewConf, and DockerCon, and a link to conf.tech, which gives you a bunch of cool conferences all over the world, actually, right? You can choose.
Has anybody worked yet on getting Cold Fusion Conference added to this thing?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Talked about it a couple weeks ago, conf.tech. Because, I mean, they have language-specific conferences like PHP, Clojure, Python, CSS. Someone needs to take up the mantle and bug these people and be like, hey, we got Cold Fusion conferences. You fools, get them added.
Yep, for sure.
I'm looking,
that'd be good to have. So
nothing CFML up there yet.
I mean, if CSS is a language, then CFML needs to be there.
Oh, we're throwing shade early, people.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into the blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. So, no surprise, Ben Nadel has a few here. So,
add a conference. There's a form on their site to add a conference. All right, here's the add a conference form in the chat. Go.
That adds a conference, but does it add the the category, probably not.
Oh, it creates a pull request on GitHub. Of course.
That's cool.
They manage their list of conferences in the GitHub repo, and they use a pull request flow. So before you fill that out, you should probably go look at the open pull request on the GitHub repo, see if someone's already added the confusion ones, and then they confirm it by merging it. That's kind of nice. I've seen several sites that use just a public GitHub repo to track community input. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I like that. I know that Lanyard used to keep track of conferences and who spoke at them and the sessions and everything else. So I was kind of curious. Like, I wonder if they're still doing that, and if we're actually putting all of our talks and everything up there or not. We probably should be.
Good question. Meanwhile, you were talking about Ben Liddell before I interrupted you. I wasn't done with that last point yet.
No problem. So yeah, Ben Liddell had a blog
Sorry,
post
Ben.
out talking about a strange MongoDB error when incrementing a document property in Lucy. So he ran into this interesting error where if you use like a counter plus plus or a counter equals, or equals plus the value, that it was basically throwing a MongoDB error. So if you set something as, counter equals counter plus one, it would work. But if you said counter plus plus, it wouldn't work. If you did counter plus equals counter.
So it looks like it wasn't really just a number. It was an instance of some Couchbase class under the covers that Lucy wasn't handling properly.
Yeah, well, that was interesting because I think when I read the blog post, it was talking about it just being the way that it worked. It wasn't necessarily a bug in Lucy per se. I guess it was, it might have been something under the covers that was doing it. So,
see, I think Ben is too slow to call things bugs, and I only say that because one of his other blog posts this last week, he was like, "I don't think it's a bug," and I commented, "I'm like, oh no, it's totally a bug. I hate that behavior. It's completely a bug."
We're probably going to talk about that one in a minute then.
Maybe.
So yeah, but it was interesting. So if you guys using MongoDB and get some weird errors when incrementing, he worked through this and he shared a workaround.
I'm reading the post now because I saw this one come across the Tweety pages, but I didn't read it yet. Did he put in a ticket for it?
I don't remember.
Because I ran into a I'll say similar Lucy bug the other day where I was dealing with Java objects that came back from a Java library that looked like arrays, but I tried to do array things with them, and Lucy just fell on its face. And so I put in a ticket. I could have said, well, I guess I'm just using it wrong, but I was like, no, Lucy should do a better job. So I put in a ticket, and Misha fixed it yesterday. And I mean, that was like a 1 week turnaround or less.
That's cool because I know that's actually another blog post we're going to talk about later is the array one that he ran into, and Adobe CF does the same thing.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't even know if I saw that one. I've been behind on Ben's blog.
Yeah,
but the point is, when it comes to the language not properly casting an underlying Java object that you think should have been castable to that type, a lot of because deep inside of Lucy, there's these giant if statements that says like, here's an incoming object. Can this be treated as an array, and thus can I do a for in loop over it? And Lucy has a big list of like, okay, here's all the interfaces in Java that I can consider an array, and I can properly cast to one. And in my instance, the set or implement or set interface, I can't talk, in Java just simply wasn't listed inside of Lucy's source code as, this can totally be cast to an array, and here's how you do it. Because it was like a one-line fix for Misha to fix it. So that's why I'm reading through this thinking like this may just be something that Lucy needs to account for an additional data type that it can use plus plus with. But
yeah, maybe. So if you're listening, Ben, maybe you can add a little more and go submit a ticket there. So we'll get to that array one in a minute here because I know it's further down the list. But Pete Freitag also had a blog post about listing logical names from SQL Server backup files. So when we're storing a SQL Server database from the back file, you need to know what the logical names of storage files are to restore them, but it's not easy to figure that out sometimes. So he shows you how to use SQL to do it, and even has a Docker command if you're running inside a Docker like he was. You better just basically run the Docker command to execute that the SQL inside of it, and that way you can get the file names, because I know that's one of the biggest pains in the butts trying to restore something is you got to get the file names right and everything. So
yeah, I like that.
Yep, I like Pete's. They're just quick and to the point, but they're really useful. They're obviously things he's run into. He's like, man, I got to remember this later. Let me write it down so everybody can see. Those are the good ones. And this weird guy, Gavin Pickin, posted a blog last week on the Order site. 30 plus VS Code hints, tips, and tricks of the week from 2019 Modernize or Die CFML News podcast. So that's a mouthful. But yeah, so what I did is I compiled all of our VS Code hints and tips and tricks from last year's episodes. I think there was 34 from 2019. And so I put them all on a blog post. So instead of having to go listen to every podcast or go back to every week, you can just look in one place and have them. So later this week, I'm going to do all the ForgeBox modules that we talked about last year as well. So that would be in one big blog post as well. So that's on the ordersolutions.com blog. It's a pretty cool blog post. Hopefully you guys get a lot out of it. And quite a few people saw that. I posted on Facebook and Slack and everything. So everybody else was giving their recommendations, which is cool because we can't come up with all the recommendations. So keep sending those in and we'll add them to the list and review them and, put out the best ones to share with you guys. So that's kind of the point with this is to go through it. And John's saying it needs categories. You're right. It probably does need categories, John. We should probably do like JavaScript related stuff, CFML related stuff, maybe Docker or just productivity. So maybe we'll take that list and categorize them some way and do something with that. But for now, they're in a blog post. So enjoy. So Ben Adele had another blog post using a closure to encapsulate depth first tree traversal in Lucy CFML. He did mention how lately he's done a whole bunch of different blog posts looking at while loops to recursively iterate over a tree structure. And so this one he's doing with a closure. So if you guys are following along that little series that he's done, this is a great addition to that. So you can look at using a consumable closure callback in Lucy. So check that one out.
I'm still 2 items back. I just commented on Ben's blog. I'm like, put in a ticket, man. I bet they can fix that. Yeah. I just noticed that the data type Lucy was unsuccessful in converting it to was a collection, and that's the exact same error I was getting on the ticket I put in last week. The set wasn't convertible to a collection.
Gotcha.
Sorry. Okay, I'm done geeking out. I'm back to the show. Where are we at?
So now we're up to a tweet storm that James Moberg started last week.
Oh yeah, tweet storm.
Well, they're all separate, so I'm not sure if you can really call it a storm, but it's a lot of stuff
it's
going
like
on.
Little pop-up storms.
Yep. So James had a few different things he was talking about. So the first one, he was asking if any Cold Fusion developers are using the jQuery Form Builder plugin, because I guess they have a form builder.online. They have an Angular version too. It's a client-side builder. You can do form structure and data, and then it saves it in a JSON format. And he's been having to add some CFML tweaks to work around those CF plus JSON issues and everything. So he was wondering who else is working on it. Maybe they can sort of work together. He was also in connection with that. He was also talking about Cold Fusion has a serialized JSON use custom serializer parameter, but he considered using it, but he says the framework only supports one custom serializer. If he wants to use two, you can't use it. So he talked about, guess who? Ben Adele has a JSON utility CFC with a UDF.
Did James say what version of Cold Fusion he's on?
No, I don't think he did.
I thought I chimed in that conversation, and I'm failing to find my reply right off.
Yeah, I did see something. Yeah, from you as well.
The right link in the show notes. I see, because that's the one on the Form Builder plugin. The tweet that James has sent out talking about, does anybody use the custom serializer? I thought I'd replied to that. I don't know, maybe I didn't hit send. I replied to a lot of things. And said, no, I'd never used it, but I thought it would pretty much become moot as of Cold Fusion 2018 when they finally fixed the JSON serialization. For the most part, most of the issues that Adobe Cold Fusion always had with JSON serialization that Lucy never had was based on the fact that everything is always stored as strings in the back end. So numbers stored as strings, dates stored as strings, strings stored as strings, everything stored as strings. And so whenever you made JSON, it was always a matter of Cold Fusion sort of like guessing, like, oh, geez, what was this originally? I don't know. Was this a number? I don't know. Looks like a number. Let's make it a number this time, right? Whereas Lucy, when you declare a number in your code, it's like that's a number. And behind the scenes in Java, it's actually a Java-Lang double. So when it comes time to create JSON out of it, Lucy doesn't have to guess. It's like, look, this is a number. I know because of this underlying Java data type that I've preserved, I will now keep it a number, or a Boolean was the other big one. I had a big blog post about that. But in Adobe ColdFusion 2018, they reworked all of that, which I was super pleased with. And all the JSON serialization bugs that had existed all cleared up from what I could see. So that's why, like, the first question I could think of when he was like, stuff isn't serialized into JSON properly, what's an alternative serializer? Or because the whole custom serializer stuff, in my opinion, was a really hacky workaround.
Yeah, you said it was the wrong solution to the wrong problem.
Yeah, that's what I said. It was the wrong solution to the wrong problem. Because the whole problem was ColdFusion was throwing away information about what the data type was of a variable, so it would have to guess later on. And so their workaround was to kind of like duct tape this, like, well, why don't you tell us how to serialize it? I'm like, no, I don't want to tell you how to serialize it. How about when I say here's a Boolean, you store it as a Boolean. So later on, when I say make it into JSON, you know exactly what to do with it, which is what they did in 2018 to their credit. And so I was like, I wonder if he's not on the latest version of ColdFusion, because just upgrading to 2018 gives you a whole new world of JSON serialization. But yes.
And Pete said, yes, Mr. No and Mrs. Yes were happy to see that fixed.
Yeah. True and false and yes and no would get confused with Booleans. That's messy stuff.
Yeah, no, I had that for sure. I actually have an old site running on a whatever, and yeah, Mr. No was Mr. False, and everybody, this client called me up like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "The data imported correctly. It's just outputting it in JSON incorrectly. Sorry."
Yeah,
Mr. False. Yeah, I know. There's a doctor called Mr. False in our medical system, apparently. Yeah, it's too funny. Thanks for sharing that one, Pete. That made me laugh. And then also, James got on my little task last week of asking Code Wars to add CFML. So he tweeted about that, but that also got him thinking. He actually sent a message out to the Practical Dev. He said, I intend to post a lot of ColdFusion articles on your platform. CFML has been around since 95. He's been using it since 97. He noticed that using a Java tag resulted in an icon added to the share image. Could ColdFusion and CFML receive the same treatment? So if you guys can go click on that one and retweet it and like it, maybe the Practical Dev may pay attention. For those of you that don't know, that's dev.to. It's a big community for developers, and it's kind of like the medium for developers without so much spammy content and spammy pop-ups. So check that one out. And he also had a UDF that he was tweeting about too. He needed to whitelist many IPv4s and IPv6 CIDRs from his CDN WAF provider using ColdFusion. So he is IP in range.
Was
UDF.
that a dare to see how many acronyms you could fit in one tweet?
I think because of the space. Yeah, he just wanted to make it hard for me to read, I think, too. But so he has his IP in range UDF that was inspired from existing CFML solutions. He says it supports regex too, so pretty interesting. So if you guys are doing IP ranges or whatever, he's got a nice little UDF that he made for that. So
nice.
Yeah.
John, what's the link? Which one is it?
So, man, that one of bins around the array is still down the list. So the next one is another bin Adele post, but it's different. So this was kind of interesting. So this was repositories and data access layers can have as many methods as you find helpful. So Ben was talking about how originally when he started using DALs or data access layers, he basically tried to have a real specific, strict list of functions that they had. And so it was, get by ID, get by filter, list by ID, list by filters, real like 6 or 8 different functions, and that's all he ever had. And so he got to the point where later on he figured out, well, this is kind of painful. If I'm wanting to see if something exists, I have to use one of these functions, which gives, does all this work, transfers it across the network, and it's a lot of bloat for a simple thing. So he realized that as long as the abstraction allows him to do what he wants to do. In other words, abstract away the underlying data access, but have a nice, useful, interface to that data, then it still can work as a data access layer the way he thought. So
he has a nice Monty Python reference in here. Search for the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
He says you can even have methods like get airspeed velocity of an unladen African swallow.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very specific, so you don't have to say African or European.
Yep. So, but yeah, so it's an interesting read. I thought
So
it was kind of
basically, he's
interesting.
saying it's okay to create a larger number of very specific methods that do precisely what you need in each case, as opposed to shoehorning everything into a smaller number of very generic methods. It sounds like.
Yeah, as long as they still abstract and maintain that sort of that pattern. So, I mean, sometimes, yeah, sometimes you need to go a
If you
little
deal with
deeper.
unladen African swallows a lot, there's no way around it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I like having a consistent, way to get to my data, but he basically added a get it, an exists function, and I like that. I mean, it makes a lot more sense to do an exists on a single row, return a boolean, don't have to return data. But it was kind of nice. We've had these conversations sometimes with clients about what's the best way to name your functions in DAOs or in services, and you got the whole, ORM does it this way, and Eric's like, well, Quick does it this way, and then there's these names, and I want everything to be the same, but they're not. And so, I like the idea of having a consistency between them all. So yeah, but it was interesting. I liked it. And like, Ben says, he's evolved over time, things change and whatever. And so I just like getting into the mind of Ben and, see what he's.
Scary place to be.
Yeah.
I'm Googling now the difference between service layer and a data access layer.
I think data access layer is basically that it'll actually run the queries and everything with the service or ask something else to do it. So if you're using
Some of my
ORM,
services just run queries if they're super simple. Maybe I've been writing data access layers this whole time.
maybe. See, with ORM and it's quick, you don't have to get into the nitty gritty of it. The idea is that the data access layer can actually communicate directly with it. You should be able to switch them out, which no one ever does, except that rare occasion where Eric switched from Oracle to something else. But yeah, the idea is that the data access layer should care about what type of setup it is, and everything else calling it shouldn't care. Abstract away the actual implementation details, and if you want to switch
Yeah, but
to Redis,
you could have said that sentence and you could have switched. You could have just replaced data access object DAO.
Yeah.
And what would have been the difference in your sentence?
Well, the layer
That's
is
my
a collection
problem with
of
developers
objects.
is they come up with another. They take a concept and they change like one word of a definition, and like now I have a new acronym for this totally new concept I've created. And I'm always like, well, what's the difference?
Well, I think the data access layer is a collection of data access objects.
But isn't that a service? Eric says maybe it doesn't matter, which I think is probably the real answer.
Yeah.
I like there to be exact definitions of things. I don't like these vague definitions. So then I'm like, oh, I need to know the difference. And then I read and I'm like, but that sounds like everything else I already use.
Yep.
All right. I just put up a large post that I'm going to have to scroll through later so I can actually focus on the podcast.
Yep.
Everyone, this is everyone's homework for next week. Figure out whether you're using a service layer or an access object or an access layer or a gateway, because maybe you're really old school. And then decide if you care.
Well, John said, what's easy to code and what's easy to test? And I like the fact if you have something in a DAO outside of the service, then you can mock the DAO piece easily. So that's why I like to separate the queries from the actual service. The service has the business logic, and the DAO or the DAL or whatever you want to call it today. That would be basically Brad.
No,
Pete just invented the DASL, the data access service layer. But yeah,
I think John has a very good point. What's easier to code? What's easier to test? Because really, at the end of the day, your boss doesn't pay you to come up with the coolest sounding acronyms to describe your code. They pay you to have manageable, testable code that does what it's supposed to do. Even though we like to geek out, the better question yet is how did the Starbucks just appear in my hand? The world may never know.
I know, sneaky.
I would thank all the little people in my life, including my wife. You just handed it to me.
The magic of technology.
Okay, good stuff. Well, I mean, Ben's always good for these kind of like deep conversations, existential conversations on programming.
Yeah.
What is the difference? In fact, maybe, Ben, I smell a blog post coming. What's the difference between... Just going to throw that out there.
Yep. So Pete had another blog post. He solved git clone large repo download errors. So he was attempting to clone a large Git repo over HTTPS hosted on an on-premise GitLab instance, and he kept getting this error. And so
transfer closed with outstanding read data remaining. That's kind of like if the mailman comes to your house and they're like, "Well, this is part of your mail. I don't know. There's more in my truck, but."
So it looks like he just switched from HTTP to SSH, and that did the trick. So I guess there was some web server timeouts that were kicking in and giving him some grief. So SSH didn't time out.
On-premise GitLab. Well, it's possible there was, an Nginx or something sitting in front of it that had different timeouts for HTTP and HTTPS.
It's possible.
It sounds like that fix may be something very unique to that setup, but that's interesting.
Yep, good to know. I mean, I like HTTPS because it's simple, but SSH seems to give me less headaches. Apart from the headaches.
I'm just going to go back to storing all my code in a zip file, Gavin.
Yep.
I should be careful. We have clients who do that. I don't want to make fun of them. It works for them, man. It's easy and it's testable for them.
Yep. So, finally, Ben Nadell has a blog post about passing is-array
They're just going to call this the Ben Nadell show. Here we thought Matt Gifford was making a comeback. We can't shut this Ben Nadell guy up. It's just on and on with good content, man.
Yep. So he was talking about the is-array decision function does not ensure member methods in Lucy exist.
Yeah. That's the one I was like, dude, it's totally a bug.
Yeah. Because it is array, but it's not cast to an array. So he talked about trusted versus untrusted versions of stuff. Like promises, he was bringing up a Bluebird promise versus a normal promise, and a Bluebird promise is a different public API.
Where does Ben get this stuff from? A Bluebird promise?
Well, swallows, bluebirds. Maybe he's got a theme going.
What is the ASP velocity of a Bluebird promise?
No, but I guess he's dealing with promises in Angular and JS and everything. So, but anyway, the same thing applies.
Asian or Polynesian? I don't know.
Just because an array is an array doesn't mean it's
Oh, it looks like a Node library.
Yeah.
npm install Bluebird.
Yep.
Those JavaScript people, they just flip the dictionary and they look for a noun and they throw JS on the end. They're like, boom, Bluebird JS. That's a library now.
Yep. But anyway, so he was talking about, basically like you said, it's an array in some context, it is an array, but the member functions don't exist because it wasn't cast with the same thing. So like a byte array is an array, but it's not necessarily something that you can do all the array member functions on.
And that's I don't know if Achilles heel is the right phrase, but that's sort of been the bane of member functions in CFML, is you had this loosely typed language, and we don't really use interfaces at the language level, which would be really nice if we did. As you get things in and you can tell a function, I want this parameter to be an array, and CFML just says, okay, is the incoming thing something that I can cast to an array? And if so, sure, let it on through, but it doesn't actually convert it, right? But member functions only exist specifically on actual, like, real life CFML arrays, like the behind the scenes, the Java object is an actual CFML array, which is really confusing and annoying, since you can you can pass a bevy of array-like objects into the headless built-in functions like array slice in this example. You can say array slice and just pass in some object that can be vaguely converted to an array. Totally works. But you do, untrusted array dot array slice, and if it's not specifically a CFML array created in Cold Fusion, some Java array list that came back out of a library, looks, smells, talks, quacks like an array, and then your code blows up and you're like, what the crap? And you're like, oh, well, that wasn't a real array. And in JavaScript, we have the loosely typed nature, but in JavaScript, there's not this like huge JDK of like a billion classes based on interfaces and like a zillion, subclasses that all like can be treated as, maps and arrays and sets. In JavaScript, you get something that's basically an object, or it's an array, or it's a function, right? But it's so much simpler in JavaScript. You can kind of get away with it. JavaScript libraries don't like create their own custom classes that extend other things, because of course it doesn't really even have classical inheritance. But it's such a pain. And this is the one that Ben had said, this isn't a bug in CFM and Lucy. It was a bug in the way I was thinking, and it was like, nope, it's a crap implementation. Because I have argued, like I told him in my comment, I've argued with the Adobe engineers and Lucy engineers for countless hours about this. And this can be the show where I list all the good things about Adobe Cold Fusion. I mentioned how Adobe Cold Fusion in 2018 fixed a bunch of the JSON problems. Another thing that Adobe Cold Fusion did in version 2018 that is kicking Lucy's butt is they fixed like half of these sort of member function things, but specifically the ones related to string member functions. You still get issues with struct and well, query doesn't really apply, but struct and array member functions, you still get a lot of this nonsense of like, oh, that's a hash map, it's not a real struct. But with strings now in Adobe Cold Fusion 2018, you don't have a problem anymore when you have a variable that's not really, it's actually a Boolean. It's the Boolean true, and you try to do .len on the end of it, do a string member function. That in numbers, Adobe Cold Fusion will now properly make any string member function work on numbers and Booleans, which is like, thank you. And Lucy still hasn't yet to do it. But I've pointed out of like, hey, you guys have to do it now because it's a freaking incompatibility. You have to match Adobe's implementation. So huge kudos to the Adobe engineers for being the first people to finally fix that. But I still think we need to find ways so that anything that can be cast to an array can have the array member functions on it, just because I think that's what makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I was reading this, totally feeling Ben's pain. I mean, I literally got bit with this in Lucy this week. I mean, all the time. I had an array of incoming strings, or so I thought, and I tried to loop over them and do some string manipulation. It blows up because like the 50th one was a Boolean. It was true, and it wasn't a real string. And I was like, geez, Lucy, come on, it's a string, man. You can treat it as a string, But that's like, sorry, this gets me so angry. But yeah, so reading this, I was like, no, Ben, you weren't wrong, Ben.
Yeah, because you both
Not
can't be
you.
wrong, right?
It's the language. This is poor language design. I sound like Sean Corfield when I say that. Bad language design. He should have trademarked that, but I wouldn't be able to say it without paying him royalties.
Yeah,
I feel you, Ben. The struggle and pain is real. We did talk about some clever little workarounds, which he had one in his blog post using array slice. I like to take, which this only works in Lucy. Back to things that don't work in Adobe Cold Fusion. You can just take like an empty struct literal, open close curlies, dot append, and you can just take like a Java hash map and have it appended into the original CFML struct, and then that sort of converts it, if you will, to a CFML struct. It only does it one level deep, but there's some things you can do to make the variables guaranteed to be a string or an array or struct. But
yeah,
it's definitely a frustrating aspect of a language because when you're just slamming code into your editor and all of a sudden it blows up and you're like, what? That totally should have worked. Oh, that's right. It's not really an array. That kind of stuff sucks.
Yeah, it's like in JavaScript, you have to put an empty string on the front of a number to make it into a string so you can concatenate it.
Yeah. John Farrar, if CFScript 2.0 was fixing all the crap like that, I would absolutely love it. Because I've talked about on Twitter that they threw out the whole ES6 thing. I think that's a marketing nonsense. I don't think there's any value in having strict compatibility with ES6 or any of that. I think 0 people will come to the language because of that. But making crap like member functions just always work on things that can be cast to arrays like the headless functions work.
Yeah.
That is perfect script. It doesn't even need to be 2.0, right? It just needs to be 1.0 working like you expect it to.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing.
1.1.
They don't need to make a new version, a breaking compatible version. They don't need to look at ES6 features unless they actually make sense in the language. They need to take this little annoying edge cases that just don't do what they should have done in the first place. That should be CFScript 2.0. All right, end of rant.
Okay.
Now get off my soapbox.
So next, a few weeks back, we talked about the Open Cage API. There's a cool little module that was added, and of course I've forgotten who added the module, but the OpenCageData.com actually had a blog post about the Cold Fusion SDK and talked about how Simeon E.
I recognize that username. Crap, who is that?
Yep. And so the cool thing about that was, if you were using, I'm not even sure if it's actually the same one, if it's built on top of it and they're just slow to blog about it or not. So if you guys are using OpenCage Data and you don't want to use
I think that's Gary
ForgeBox
Stanton.
module. It is Gary Stanton? Okay,
well,
he's the one that added the module.
That's because that's his, based on the fact that that's Gary Stanton's CFML Slack username is SIMIANE. So I'm guessing that's who that is. I knew I recognized it.
Cool. Well, then that makes sense then, because Gary's the one that submitted the module. So it's cool to see someone actually mentioning Cold Fusion on a bigger, site and saying that the SDK is out there, because there's not too many Cold Fusion SDKs out there. So thank you for that, Gary. Michael Bourne also had a 5-minute quick start with CB Elasticsearch. So 5 minutes, he shows you how to basically have a application using Elasticsearch in ColdBox. He says it was super easy. So nice little blog post on that on the michaelbourne.me site.
That's nice.
So yep, I'll share that in case anyone wants to check that out.
You're going to interrupt our endless chat about CFScript 2.0. Come on. Pasting your relevant links in the chat window.
Yep, and then Charlie Earhart also tweeted about preventing spam on ColdFusion and Lucy sites by checking email addresses and/or IP addresses for known spammers using a REST or HTTP call to low-cost CleanTalk anti-spam service, cleantalk.org.
Just 40,000 requests per day in the free tier. Oh, no. Sorry, I'm reading James Moberg's reply.
Yeah, so James actually...
He had a different service.
Yeah, James replied with API utility IO, API. So API-LITY-IO. Their
Good
free
luck.
tier offers 40k requests per day. And the reason is because nobody can spell the damn name.
It'd have more users if it was something they could spell.
Yep.
When I first saw this tweet, my first thought was that sounds like something James Moberg would tweet about.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool, though. So I'm guessing like somebody, I assume it's like a blacklist, basically, right? You know, somebody submits a comment on your blog, and you check the IP address to see if it's blacklisted. So I'm curious how they build that list.
Because we've talked about doing similar things, for ColdFusion and helping each other out because we're always messing with blacklists and whitelists and.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, and I have a love-hate relationship with blacklists because there's nothing worse than running a server that somehow gets blacklisted because, there's a spammer in your IP block that you have no relation to sending spam, and like an entire range gets blocked and then you can't do crap. And then, these blacklist companies can just be like a black hole. You can never get yourself taken off of them. I've definitely been on the wrong side of that, but I love the idea. I mean, we get tons of spam comments on like the Ortus blog.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, probably 2 or 3 a day sometimes. And we have a CAPTCHA, right?
Yeah, the captures are pretty crap these days. They don't really do much, but yeah, we get a lot of them. So I think I might have to.
I think those are manually typed. Like, honestly, I think there's people that like sit in a room and they just pull up blogs and they check the CAPTCHA button and they copy and paste, links to online medications or pharmacies or something.
They probably do. I mean, sometimes manual works, right?
Yes, I mean, so if a human copied and pasted it, then the human can click the CAPTCHA. But yeah, so I kind of like these sort of clever ways to try to track.
I mean, 40,000 requests is pretty good too. So I mean,
oh yeah, that's a lot.
We might be able to build a pretty nice little content box capture for this, or not even capture, but just blacklist check. So I might have to do that at some point because I get a lot of spam from some of my clients that are using content box, and it's aggressive. We'll put it that way. There's a lot of it. So pretty cool. So thank you, Charlie, for your cleantalk.org, and then the API-ility IO one from James. So cool. Well, next on our list, we have our coding challenge of the month. So last week we announced this week's coding challenge, which is actually a faux pas because it's not really a coding challenge. It's a challenge about coding. So last week we asked you to do 3 things to get on our drawer. So if you email info@codewars.com asking them to add CFML ColdFusion to a list of languages on their site and CC Gavin at autosolutions.com, so we knew you did it. We also want you to tweet that you love Code Wars, but when will they be adding CFML ColdFusion to the list of languages? And we have a little tweet in the show notes, so you can just copy and paste. And then also, if you retweet other people who are talking about this as well. So there was quite a few people that did it. So they're already entered in the draw for the gift card at the end of the month. So if you guys can help us out with that, we really appreciate it. So email them, CC me, tweet, and then retweet other people tweeting around about ColdFusion and stuff. So
let me ask a quick clarifying question on that. In order to be counted in the challenge, do you need to actually tweet it specifically from your account, not just retweet other people's tweets?
Yes, tweet it from your account and then retweet other people's.
Okay, because I saw, I retweeted your tweet. I didn't tweet it from my own account, but I also knew that I would be ineligible to win. But I saw a lot of other people just retweeting stuff, and they may have just been retweeting it because, hey, it may not have been because of the podcast episode. I just wanted to make sure people knew that retweeting is great, but also if you want to be counted, send an actual original tweet from your account. So,
yep, yeah, for sure.
Great.
Thanks for clarifying. But yeah, it was nice. I got these emails. I'm like, oh, cool. These emails get finally in. So thanks to those who are doing it. Yeah, and then like I said, we're doing the live pair programming tomorrow, and we'll work on building the little ForgeBox module so you can download a little app. Work on the challenges.
Eric could have created like 3 modules in the time you spent talking about how you're going to create a module. I'm just going to say.
Yeah,
he probably did one during the podcast today. What did you create, Eric? What have you made during the podcast?
I could make one.
He
but
sneezes
I'm gonna wait.
and the module pops out.
Yeah. Well, I'm waiting for the live coding to do it, so that way everyone can see us do it, and they can badmouth us and heckle us, and maybe even learn something. Who knows?
See, that's part of Eric's genius is he does it so fast no one can heckle him because they're like, wait, what? Oh, no, it's published. Too late.
Yep, exactly. We'll have to even, yeah. So we'll build a repo. Use some command box scaffolding to scaffold out an app, add test box, scaffold a model with some appropriate tests, add some tests, and then we'll have to create the package on ForgeBox and publish it. So that's probably our goal for tomorrow. And then we'll probably go and add some more stuff because I'd like to have the app have a button that you just say click a button and it just pops up the little tweet window. It already has a tweet in there for you. See?
Click a button.
Wait, John didn't hear about the live thing? We mentioned it inside of our news right after the Rack Sheaf thing. At least you guys are just skipping the news because you want to talk about modules.
It's like we talk and nobody listens. It's like my wife talks and I'm like, what? Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Yep. So tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, we're going to try and live code on YouTube. We'll throw it out there on Twitter. So follow me, John, on Twitter, and I'll let you know what URL we're using. We got to finalize that, me and Michael. So me and
All right,
Michael
so we're doing the show again. All right, from the top, boys.
No, let's jump to the next thing here. So let's
I got some
find a
jobs.
job. And actually, this has been pretty busy. So last week there was 20 Cold Fusion positions listed. I'm not sure if all of them were still active or not, but this week there's 28 from 22 companies across 17 locations in 5 countries. So we have a full-time Cold Fusion developer, a senior in Arlington, Virginia. That was posted on the 13th. We have a full-time senior Cold Fusion developer in Washington, D.C., posted on the 10th. A full-time Cold Fusion software engineer in Tampa, Florida, posted on the 10th. A senior Cold Fusion application developer in Washington, D.C., posted on the 9th. And then we have another one in Arlington posted on the 7th. So that might be a duplicate. I'm not sure if these are repeating or not. If they're added to different boards, the CFMLjobs.com does read from multiple locations, so maybe that's what happened. But there's also 2 in India as well. There's a junior software developer for Cold Fusion in Ahmedabad.
All you, man. You got it. Go.
And then Hyperadad has a senior Cold Fusion developer as well. So
it's interesting. I'm looking at the number of these that have the word senior in them. Out of how many did you just list off?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 jobs, and
5 of them have the word senior in them.
Really? I count 6 out of the 7.
What? I just hit Control F in the Google Doc and typed senior and just counted the number that were highlighted.
Okay, maybe
unless I counted one twice.
You know what? You're right. No, you're right. I'm wrong. I should get used to that today.
I'm just a worthless stat. It's just interesting. Of course, most Cold Fusion developers have been around enough to probably call themselves senior. I won't make any guesses as to people's actual level of expertise, but it's just kind of interesting that the need in the market definitely appears to be people with a senior level skill set. Of course, I mean, there's no strict definition of what senior means. It's kind of like they consider you should be vaguely smarter than the other people that come in, I guess. But either way, this is interesting to see. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, though. I have to think about that.
Yeah.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing that they only want seniors?
Yeah.
Of course, maybe it's like bargaining. They figure if they say senior and someone comes in that's like halfway there, they're like, all right, well, close enough. They're highballing.
Yeah. Cool, cool. Okay, so got a lot of jobs there. Go to getcfmljobs.com. There were a couple more on Facebook I saw, but I couldn't find them going back because Facebook hides everything later. So sorry, I couldn't
Oh,
share that too.
Facebook. Maybe
So
Facebook decided it was hate speech and decided you didn't need to see it.
probably did mention
Confusion is
a
hate speech,
city.
Kevin.
Okay,
Darn
so the
hack language they use.
ForgeBox module of the week this week is one by Matthew Clemente. I was going looking for some interesting, relatively new packages, but this one's actually from a little while ago. But it's
I didn't
called
remember this one.
Summarize. I think
Summarized.
it's
It's
meant to
missing
be
some vowels.
summarized, but yeah, missing some letters. And
I
so,
assume that's on purpose. Not going to
yep.
hate.
So it's a CFML wrapper for the summary SMMRY API.
This was a while ago.
So I guess they just drop all the vowels.
All right, you
But
should have a link in the show notes. I'm like scrolling through ForgeBox trying to find this sucker. Oh, here it is. You
there's
have a
a
link.
link.
Google didn't link it. Google
Brad.
Docs didn't turn it into a link. I blamed them.
So it's kind of cool. The API can summarize either web-based content or text via the web and the text methods, respectively. They both functions take an optional second argument which contains settings for your summarization.
It works on
Basically,
PDFs.
But basically, what it does is you give it some content, and it uses an algorithm to figure out what it should give you back as a summary. So, for like blog posts, if you want an excerpt or like a summary at the top, you could theoretically pass it in, and it would give it back to you.
Does it pull like an icon, like a favicon or whatever from the page?
I don't know about that. All I know is that there's a bunch of settings in it for what type of things you want. So you can say, hey, I want 3 sentences with 3 keywords, with a break, with encoding. Avoid questions.
Matthew's in the Slack. We can just ask him. Does this pull icons on the
think
page?
it's just text, but it does.
So I'm actually curious about this because I was having to build that the other day for the Gitbook exporter, where if you embed a link to another page, we don't pull in any summary stuff. Though I was like, oh, this sounds kind of cool. But we look for a favicon, we look for some not param meta. HTML tags. We look for like the first image on the page. I have some XPath nonsense that tries to like find an icon, kind of like what happens in Facebook. You post a link and they snag an icon and they stick it in there. Maybe I can send you what I had done. I see Matthew just said no. I can send him what we had done to try to pull the favicon. That could be a cool little addition, is to summarize it and like grab an icon that's either a favicon or something of that nature.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool that you could say avoid anything with quotes, avoid questions or explanations, so it can try and grab a useful bit of summary text. So I thought it was kind of cool. It's something like that in Content Box I wish we did. So if someone doesn't actually put an excerpt, it would calculate one or create one for you. Might be kind of nice. Because sometimes it's hard to think up a summary. Not everyone's first sentence is that good.
Whoa, it makes up sentences if there aren't any? What kind of sentences does it make? This is a PDF with pictures of a cat. I want to play with this library now. It's piqued my interest.
Yep, for sure. So we had a comment from Julien Ruan. From competition point of view, sure, having senior developers, but it sucks from a talent sourcing view since it's hard to find juniors or college grads to keep the dev team
because you're referring
mixed.
to the hiring.
Yeah, so that makes it. It makes a good point. If everyone's looking for seniors, then there's not many junior jobs on the job board, so most people think they shouldn't get into it. Maybe it's older, and I think that makes sense too because, like you said, it's probably easier and better to train up a developer who's modern and to bring him over, and they won't have all the baggage of a senior Cold Fusion developer. They used to.
It seems like a good team should have a couple senior developers and then a handful of junior developers that can work on implementing stuff. But I'm curious if the demand for senior developers comes from people's inability just to get developers at all, and so we're just looking for a good one.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if they just do it where they might have one good developer and make it, instead of having a couple, a small team, they probably have one person that needs to cover everything. So if they're a senior developer, they're more likely to cover more, since they're scaling them down, something like that. But I don't know. It's a good question, I guess. I know that at Audis we hire all sorts of different experience levels, and we know that we can train them. And a lot of the developers lately have been Java-based ones, and when they see Cold Fusion, they usually get excited because it's easier and better. So,
Yes, it is. There you go, Matthew. I put a link in there if you have any interest in that code that tries to pull favicons for
your
URLs.
links don't show, Brad, so sorry. It's probably moderated because you're sharing as yourself. So all the links you've been sharing today, I don't think they've shown up. Sorry.
Does it actually not show?
I don't see it. And I'm the boss man.
I thought I'm a moderator now.
No, I don't know. Well, I don't see them. Sorry.
Curse you, Aqua Scum.
Yeah.
You know, I made a joke about Facebook blocking stuff for hate speech. Never mind, it was YouTube. YouTube's the one. Yeah, you're right. My comment posted, but not the link. You stupid. It doesn't even show up as needing moderation.
I know. That's. I was gonna approve.
This is what happens in tech platforms. Just never mind.
Yeah.
Skip the politics.
Okay, so now up to VS Code.
Gavin's like, steer us back into the Cold Fusion lane.
So a VS Code hint, tip, and trick of the week. After submitting that blog post of all those items, a lot of people gave us some hints, and a few people are kind of dismayed that we hadn't shared the CFLint one yet. So this week's hint, tip, and trick of the week is CFLint. So CFLint is a linter for CFML, and you can find more on the GitHub repo for it, but it's basically the extension integrates CFlib into VS Code. So just like if you've used Prettier or JS Hint or anything like that, it allows you to basically find issues with your code, and you can configure it how you needed. I do recommend going to Auto Solutions Coding Standards GitHub repo, and we'll have the link, and I will share the link so it actually works.
Yeah, I can paste it in, but it's not going to do any good.
But yeah, the coding standards is nice. There's a file in there with a lot of the Autos standards, so you can copy that file in. And the cool thing is when you open it up, it'll show you, some recommended suggestions for your code and things that you should fix. Does var scoping and stuff like that as well. So it's pretty neat. The one thing about CFLint, and the reason we hadn't spotlighted it yet, is it's not as fast as some of the other tools out there that are running on stuff like Node inside of VS Code, because CFLint uses command box and
No, it doesn't.
Well,
no.
Okay, there's a command.
CFLint is just a straight up Java jar that uses some Apache library for parsing Java args, so it's actually pretty fast. There is a command box module that somebody wrote that wraps CFLint, so you have a nice command box command wrapper. But I thought that the CFLint integration in VS Code was just a straight up call to a jar, which is pretty fast.
Well, it's still slow. It's still got the overhead of starting a JVM type thing up because it doesn't have a language server. And so we've looked at adding a language server for command box so we can add more command boxy goodness into VS Code, and CFLint would get some benefits from that too. But yeah, so that's one of the things they're working on, is ways to improve performance by doing 2 or 3 different things, and one of them is a language server. And so that's why we haven't spotlighted it yet, because it's not as cool. And if you're used to JS Hint or Prettier, it's way faster to get started. CFLint is a good tool, though, don't get me wrong, but it is running Java, and so it can have some slowdowns.
People to time it. How long does CFLint take to start up? Because I actually really thought it was pretty fast, but it's been a while since I played with it.
Yeah, I actually disabled it for a while because it would just spin if I open up a bunch of files
in VS Code.
In VS Code, it would.
So here's a question: how much of that was the spool up time, and how much of that was CFLint just being slow to do its work if it's scanning a lot of files?
That's the thing. I'm not sure. And the one thing I do like about using the command box version is you can do an entire repo pretty quickly. But yeah, it's one of those things. So I'd personally disable it a lot of the time. I just turn it on when I'm, if I want to go through and do some checks. It's up to you. I mean, it's a good tool. It does a good job, but performance is something that they're aware of and they're working on. But I mean, it's a good tool. That's just one thing to be aware of. So
it's really interesting. I'm trying to try it really quick.
Yeah. So I mean. And it might have been that I had 8 VS Code windows open, and everything and every one was running CFLint on everything. So it's a possibility. But maybe if you write great code, you won't have to worry about it so much too. But that's not a problem I run into. So
Interesting to do some tests and see if it slows down in relation to how much code is in the repo that it's scanning.
Yeah. Okay, and then we had another comment from Julien. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but they're asking if there's any VS Code, Sublime, whatever ways to have snippets for CFML, CFScript context sensitive. So if you're in tags, use the CF dump tag, but when you're in script, then use the write dump, etc. So I know that a couple of people recommended some script tools as far as like snippets and everything, and I'm not sure if they're case sensitive or not, but usually a lot of the time they'll come down to the language, and so I'm not sure if the CFML parser stuff actually understands it enough to be able to determine it. So I'm not sure, to be honest. If anyone has a solution for that, please share it in the chat. But yeah, so and they said no problem butchering the name. So I guess I'm butchering it really good. It's okay. My name was always mispronounced and misspelled. So
Given.
When I first got to America, it was pronounced Kevin, Jevin, Devin, Javin, Jeff.
Jeff.
And I got called Jeff 3 different times by 3 different people. I'm like, how do you get
Jeff? Well, and there is
Jeff
the spelling of
Gavin?
Jeff that's like Geoff, but
I know, but how does Gavin sound
special.
like Jeff? I'm like, I even had the little baby block necklace that I would like, it's right here. I'm threatening to kill. Yeah, because I was so sick of people mispronouncing my name. So.
But I'm completely failing to get this CFLint jar to run right now locally.
Okay. Well,
copied and pasted it off the README, and I get a unable to access jar file. Let's see what I'm doing wrong there.
Brad broke it, but
fail.
Anyway, it's a good extension I have. I just disable it periodically. You can enable, disable for your project or workspace as needed, which is pretty neat. So definitely think it's worth having in your toolbox. And hopefully with that language server stuff, like I said, if we could get that running, hopefully it'll speed things up on many counts, and then we could use task runners in there and all sorts of goodness right inside of VS Code and super cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to have CFML stuff, but I mean, again, the CFLint jar is just pure Java. There's no Cold Fusion. It doesn't use Lucy or anything.
Well, I guess we'll let them figure that out. So, and that extension was put out by Kamasama K, who does the CFML package too. So,
Matthew Brown, I believe.
Is that who it is? I don't know.
I think so.
Cool. Well, thank you.
These crazy people that use crazy usernames.
I know. Well, that leads us to the last part of our show, which is our Patreon supporters. So thank you to all our Patreon supporters. Half of you are in the chat room right now, so that's why it's half full. So thank you for that. But we really appreciate all the support you give us. And those of you who can help us through Patreon, that money goes straight towards tooling like CommandBox, ForgeBox, etc. And without that, we wouldn't be able to do all the modern things that we'd like to in CFML. So definitely appreciate that, and those funds go straight to that. So they don't pay for Brad to do other things. They just pay for him to play on CommandBox and make it better every day. So
something like that.
But yeah, also, if those of you who are unable to support us via Patreon, obviously pull requests and documentation updates and those things are all greatly supported too. Open source projects are, a big part of what we do with Audis, and, if we all work together, we can make it better. So, but with that being said, I'd like to thank the Patreon supporters. So thank you, Andrew Davis, Brian White, Calvin Seddon, Dali, Dan Card, Daniel Garcia, David Ballinger, Didia Lesnicki, Don Bellamy, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Jan Yannick, Jeremy Adams, John Farrar, Jordan Clark, Joseph Lamery, Laxma Tirahadi, Matthew Clemente, Richard Herbert, Samuel Knowlton, Scott Steinbeck, VJ, and Yogesh Methera. So thank you, everybody. Really appreciate all your help. It's been a quieter week, but still lots of great blog content thanks to Ben and Pete and a few others, and James on Twitter. So
the rest of you step it up.
Yeah. Anyway, so if you guys got time, check out our live pair programming tomorrow at 4 Pacific. Rex Sheaf's got his webinar on Thursday, so sign up for that too. And Yeah, hope you guys have a great week.
All right, I just got this CFLint jar running. I apparently needed the full path to the jar. Like just to spin up and output the help or output the supported rules is like instant. So I really don't think it's the spool up. I have a feeling if it's slow, it's probably the actual logic that parses the files. So
Okay, so
I
maybe
don't think any like built-in Java support would make that particular part any faster. But they may need to do some refactoring on the actual code in CFLint to improve how it works.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Anyway, that's my
Well,
final thought for the day.
okay. Well, thanks
And with
everybody.
that,
You guys
we
have a
will
good
leave
one.
you with your ForgeBox packages and me with my Starbucks.
Have a good one.
Bye, guys.
Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernize.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.